Hello, I'm Dr. Naheed Malbari. I am the Assistant Professor of Sociology at ZABIST, and today we are having a podcast video with a couple of my students here to make the others who are making a difficult choice of what major they should have or what degree they should pursue in their university lives. Uh, and we wish to welcome everybody, and I wish to welcome two of my students here who just finished their majors in sociology. One is Laraib Shah, and the other one is Urooj Baig. So welcome, and I'll just give a brief understanding of what is the importance of sociology. Sociology is a subject which is very necessary to understand people who are living in our communities, in our societies, both in Pakistan, of course, and also on an international and global scale. So the importance of sociology has not been realized in our country, and we need to understand why studying it is a very important aspect of us understanding all the problems that exist in our society. So sociology will help you get critical thinking, will enhance your critical thinking, will make you understand the problems that exist, and will give you the feasible and the right kind of solutions to all the problems that exist not only in our society, not only in our local communities, but we will be able to understand also other different societies, other different communities, both in our region as well as on an international level. So the importance cannot be mitigated at all. So I will start with one of my students here, Laraib Shah, why she took up sociology and what was the debate that was going through her mind when she first chose the subject.
I got the admission in the year 2021 fall semester. I had joined with the mind. I wanted to pursue psychology because I was so intrigued by that course, by the idea of helping people, mental health and all that thing was on my mind. I really wanted to pursue psychology, but as soon as we started studying, we had our minor courses. We had like a exposure towards all four majors. Psychology was a good course, like a good major, but like it was just something not meant for me. When I first studied the basic sociology courses, for example, we can take anthro, we can take gender in particular. I really liked that course because it opened my mind towards the hidden realities, towards such intriguing and hidden realities that we have never really been exposed to. The projects that we did, the books that we read, the papers that we went through, they were just so intriguing. I remember working on the gender issue. I had worked on female genital mutilation. For before working on that project, I never knew such a thing existed. I never had an idea that such cruel rituals take place, and they are even prominent in the entire world, and we have no idea about that. There are so many cruel and hideous rituals. For instance, honor killing, Vani, Swara, Gag. There were so many things that we had studied in that course, and I was completely intrigued by the knowledge that I had gained in that course. Secondly, we also it's a very applied course. Like you get to study different schools of thoughts. There are many different scholars, there are many different theorists. You have an idea of what everyone has said about a particular thing. For instance, we can take the idea of economy, okay, and power. One theorist will say one thing about that, one theorist will is is going to say another thing about that. Someone is going to say another thing about it. For instance, Foucault, Marx, and everyone had said different things about them. So the main essence of this course was taking knowledge from all of these scholars and creating something that is solely ours, our own perspective, our own point of view on looking at things going around in the human society. So this was basically the thing that intrigued me into taking sociology as a major. Also, the applied work that we did in the starting courses, even from the fourth semester, we had designed policy proposals, we had conducted interviews, we had conducted research work, the basic research work. We had a hands-on experience with the rural communities. I remember working on a project. It was for menstruation management and the pink taxes. I had no idea that these things existed before. Looking into that issue, studying that issue, and working on that issue, we designed a policy on how to minimize the cost of sanitary products for women, which is a very natural process that they menstruate every single month, and they are imposed so many taxes, so many like such a high price tag on a product which is not even like a luxury, it's a necessity. So these things we had studied with grave detail, and honestly speaking, I couldn't have chosen anything better than sociology.
Okay.
So
Yes. What about you, Urooj? What made you change your mind?
I had a very interesting journey. So I'm just going to start from the very start. I was a pre-medical student, and I had this whole awakening that made me, choose social sciences as a pathway or a career. So initially, when I came to ZABIST, I was a fetus. I didn't know what I'm doing. But one thing I was sure of is that social sciences is something I'm truly interested in. And social sciences itself, it's a very broad, topic. It's a very broad course where you have interdisciplinary studies. You study about a lot of things at the same time. So one thing I would like to give credit to ZABIST University is that they allow us 2 years to, just absorb all the courses. And then after the 2 years, we decide what major we have to pick. So when I first came in, I was like, मैंने IR करना है. I'm going to do international relations. I'm going to go for CSS. And I had this very stringent path for me कि मैं यही करने वाली हूँ. But I think at the end of the 2 years, I contemplated. I had conversations with my teachers, and I had conversations with my peers as well, and I was like, do I really want to study IR? And I'm not saying that IR itself is not a good course or it's not like a good major, but I think I wanted something that aligned with what I am interested in. For me, studies कभी भी ऐसी नहीं रही हैं कि मैं जो हूँ कोई चीज़ रट्टा मार लूँ या I'm not that kind of a person. I can only study and I can only put my heart and soul in my studies if I'm truly interested in what I'm studying. And sociology was just that for me. And this realization that I came to, it was only through the courses that I studied within the first 2 years. Like Laraib mentioned, gender studies. You gave us the book Taboo, and we had to write like a summary of each chapter. And that book was like, it was an anthropological work. It was it was an ethnological book. It was where Fawzia Saeed, she outlined all the work that she did, how she went on the field work, how she talked to people, how she followed this one person throughout her journey, and how she explored the very controversial and looked down upon area in Lahore. And I was like, it's so fascinating to be able to do that for a living. And I'm like, as a sociologist, you get to go and research. You get to research about things that normal people would not pay any heed to, right? So sociology for me was, in simple words, liberation. I think I would call that liberation. Because since I've picked sociology, I've never studied. Because when you say study, everybody just thinks कि वो books निकाल के पढ़ लिया, हमने ये definitions याद करनी है. It has never been like that. All the courses that I have, all the electives that I've had in sociology, we've always had conversations. We've always had conversations. There has never been like one professor is coming, they're teaching monotonously the entire class. We engage. especially in your courses, you know, the whole debates that go on. We contest with your opinions, and you give us, you know, there's a whole debate going on. There isn't like shunning down or, you know, of somebody's opinions or of somebody's values. So I think it is one of the reasons why I picked sociology, because that's where my interests were aligning with, and yeah, generally the atmosphere of the class. I think the quality of the classes that I experienced after I picked sociology, where there were only a few people who were genuinely interested in the course, the quality of the conversations, the quality of discussions, debates is just significantly improved, and I had learned so many things that I never was, you know, aware of before, like Larry just mentioned. So I think that was essentially.
If you have any questions, ask me. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question to you is, since we've had so many debates, like what is it that comes to your mind, like when you're teaching a particular thing, and right, you give your opinion, and there's one thing about you, you never impose your opinions. You're like, this is my opinion, you can always have a different opinion. So how do you feel when someone gives a very drastically different opinion than yours? How do you cater to that challenge in class?
I just enjoy that because it means that you are critically thinking, you are trying to understand different concepts, and we need to appreciate diversity. We
Yes.
need to appreciate different opinions. We cannot impose one kind of opinion on everybody because everybody has their own experiences, has their own life. They've been through certain events in their own personal lives,
Yeah.
and we need to address those issues. We need to understand those issues. So in a class, if a student has a very, very differing opinion, I enjoy it perfectly. I tell them that, you know, I celebrate that difference. And if I feel that they are going on a tangent which is not related to the course or the
Yeah.
syllabus, I guide them and I tell them, okay, this is a reading material, why don't you read this up and then see whether that opinion
Yeah.
sticks to what you are thinking or whether you would like to change it.
Yeah.
So I try and give students a wide variety of opportunities, and that is why I never just subscribe a book or two books.
Yeah.
You know, my
Yes,
syllabuses
never.
have
A lot.
A
Oh, a lot
plethora of readings, yeah.
a plethora of readings
Yeah.
from various different authors, from various different, universities, from the east, from the west.
Definitely.
I do not limit the reading material to only Western thought. I also give you a lot of the Eastern
Yeah,
thought,
definitely.
which is very important because when you're trying to understand this society, you cannot impose just a Western
Yeah,
thought
that's-
on Eastern ideas and ideologies, on Eastern
Very
lifestyles.
Orientalist that
Yes.
is, yeah.
So you need to have a complete understanding. You need to take the best from all areas of the world and apply it to our own context, and therefore research in sociology is very, very important
Very
and essential, because what we are trying to understand are the issues that are there, that are prevalent in our society, and these issues need to be researched so that when the time comes for policy making, there is a more nuanced and a more greater understanding of the issue, and therefore the policies that can be made would be able to be implemented. Very often, a lot of policies are given, but when you go into the areas of the villages and others, those policies cannot be implemented because people there have a totally different mindset.
definitely.
So without understanding the local concepts, the local mindset, making a policy and trying to impose that policy onto different communities, different locals, different people, it becomes very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Because one thing in Pakistan one needs to understand is that we don't have one kind of people.
Yeah.
The Sindhis have a different traditional mindset, the Punjabis would be different, and so on and so forth. Even within Sindh, you'll have different communities.
definitely.
There are Aga Khanis and there are Boris and so on and so forth. So I encourage my students to see all the different varieties and celebrate those different varieties that exist in our society and understand those areas.
This just reminded me of one of the things that I studied in your course. It was gender only, and I think two things came to my mind. I think it was anthropology or it was gender. I don't exactly recall, but you gave us like one of such papers. You gave us like plethora of readings that we have to go through, and none of your questions are like, oh, define this, define that. You always would give like an open-ended question, like, oh, just look at this picture. What comes to your mind? How would you apply theoretical perspectives to it? And that is something that I really enjoy. I think one of the reasons why I enjoy writing your paper, even though my hands are sore by the end of it, but I truly do enjoy this aspect of your papers, is that I am able to think, I'm able to use my faculty of reason, which is not something that I used to do when I was in college or when I was in school, because जो educational framework है पाकिस्तान के अंदर, it's quite narrow-minded. While our kids are very sharp, I wouldn't say that they're not sharp or they don't hold the capacity for critical thinking, but in schools and colleges we are trained to adhere to the norms, strictly adhere to, oh, we just need to study for the purpose of getting marks. That was never the intention here. When I came, martial, I've always scored good grades, but it has never been with the intention that I have to only score good grades. I have to enrich my knowledge as well while doing so. So I think it was in gender, or that we studied about this one paper. It was Margaret Mead, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Where she studied like 3 different like historic tribes, where each of them had different social conditionings. So in one tribe, the men were they fostered more female traits, like they were emotional, they used to cry easily, they used to do the household chores, whereas the women went out and did hunting, brought food home. So all the typical male characteristics that we see in today's society were there in the tribe, but in reverse. The roles were reversed. Then in one tribe, the women, they were emotional. The men were, the manly, masculine men as we see them today. And in the third tribe, both of them had equal, levels of authority in the household. There weren't stringent gender stereotypes, like you have to do this, you have to do that. That paper, when I read that paper, the main aim of the scholar itself was that gender stereotypes, they come from social conditioning. They're not something that are innate. You learn those things. If a man is supposed to have masculine characteristics, who defines these masculine characters? It's social conditioning. And that is what like truly, shook me to my core, because I'm like, we so often ignore the impact of sociology, social sciences, social conditioning, and all of these aspects on our life and on our upbringing, that we sometimes things and solutions that are right in front of us, we ignore that. Even in today's world, जो भी मसले मिसाइल हैं in policy making, and the solutions that we're not able to find to poverty, to let's say religious polarity and all of those things, I think it will become a lot easier for us to solve these problems if we just take certain sociological aspects into consideration. हमारी country के अंदर sociology is treated as like a course that has absolutely no value, and I could not disagree more. I think it is one of those courses that has made me the person I am today. It is one of those fields of study that has turned me into the person I am, turned me into the critical person that I am today. I question everything. The reason why I'm able to question everything is because I'm able to see through the lies, I'm able to see through the manipulation, and I'm able to genuinely understand what is going on around. And that could only happen if you open yourself to study of sociology, of these subjects. And I think that's something.
And also adding to her, it was not all scholarly and all bookish reading and all. I remember in our one course, which was media and violence, I believe, we had such an interesting project that we worked on. We had watched movies from different eras from the Pakistani cinema, and that project was so fun. It was so fun. We watched these different movies, and we saw them through another lens. We saw them through a sociological lens, and we were shook to the core that okay, these things also happen. Like we saw the transition in
the media,
aligning it with the political regime that was going on, like post Zia, and then Zia, and then pre-Zia. All
the political,
all the political regimes that we saw, and the objectification, the the vulgarity, and even some movies were very good, some movies were absolutely pathetic, but we had the opportunity to analyze those, to and like give our own perspective about
Perspective
such
about-
things. And I had never really worked on a project and enjoyed that. I personally can never grow out of that project. That project was a core memory from my 4 years of university. That was an amazing project.
Yeah, mass media. It was so fun because, like, when we like, what I used to do when I watched movies was I just turn off all the critical thinking that I had. I was like, let's just enjoy, let's just look into it. But I think it was mass media and violence courses like those जो कि हमें ये चीज़ समझाते हैं that whatever we consume, we eventually become that. So the media that was celebrated, like she mentioned, like we studied different political regimes and how films were made during that time, what topics were discovered, what topics were discussed, and we are made to believe in today's world that कितनी फहाशी फैल रही है इंडस्ट्री के अंदर, and this is so bad, this is so bad. I watched the movies and
back
I'm like,
then, and we
wait,
were like, oh, okay.
wait, I mean, if this was your standard, how is this bad?
How is this bad?
It was crazy because we have this very how do I say it, a very unilinear thinking of progress, of development के पुराना कोई चीज़ है तो वो खराब ही, वो बहुत अच्छा है फिर सही हो गया, all of these things that we are living in a nostalgia that the media used to be so good, the films used to be so good, but problems, these kind of problems, patriarchy, misogyny, these kind of issues, they have been there since the beginning of time, I believe, because I saw patterns that were there from 1990s, and then they're present in films that are made in 2025. So it's quite crazy to see these things being redundantly presented in the media. And also one more thing is, while we're talking about progress, we also post-colonialism and decolonization,
Exactly.
these were anything that had to do with post-colonization. I was like, yes, I want to study that because it was so interesting, because we are made to believe that progress was only introduced, मतलब अभी हम जिस time में रह रहे हैं, we are very progressive, because we are made to believe that anything that happens in the past, anything that happened a few centuries ago, they were not as developed, they were savages. But it wasn't like that. Who gives you the right to call them savages? Who gives you the right to define what progress is? What makes you think that if they're using a mitti ka bartan, that is not progressive, or that is savagery or whatever? So these things that are fed to us, we tend to overlook them in sociology. We don't overlook them. In fact, we integrate those and we study through a broader sociological lens. We study the social structures. We study how truth is defined, like Foucault talked about how truth, there are no universal truths, how knowledge is historically contingent, how all of these things, they're constructed by the status quo, that the powerful authorities that are present in the time. And these are things we would not normally, they're not table conversations while we're having tea, ki, oh, ye ho gaya. We have to study in depth or to come to a realization. And the more you study sociology or sociology related courses, you tend to realize the less you know. You realize कि कितना हमें पता ही नहीं है आदि
Yes,
चीजें.
even till today, that whenever I take up a book to read and take up a new, I read up on a new theory, like I'm saying that, okay,
Yeah.
this is something new, this is something interesting, this is something intriguing. So you're learning all the time.
Exactly.
Till today, I have not stopped learning. And formally, I'll give a little bit about myself, that I used to teach literature and language and even accounting at one point of time in my life.
Diverse.
But diverse, very diverse. But the day I took up sociology and I started teaching it and started studying it, I have not looked back at all. It has been my staple diet, as I could say. I consume it, I enjoy it, and whenever I enter a class, it is very, very invigorating and very thrilling for me to impart the knowledge that I have consumed to my students?
Miss would tend to basically, she would read something, she would have this new book she's reading, she'll bring it to class, like, see everyone, I'm reading this book, now you also go read this book. And then all the books that she's reading during the course of the our academic timeline, she would bring those books and she would share the knowledge with us, even if it's not related to the course. And that is one more thing that I really like about being a sociology major, is there are no stringent demarcations that, oh, you only need to study this is where your studies end, now this is another course. It's so interdisciplinary and integrated, everything is very, how do I say, it's so beautifully incorporated into each other that you can study anything and it'll still be sociology.
Also, along with media, along with politics, along with society, we also learned a lot about religion. Religion is also studied very deeply in this discipline. I remember there was this one perspective in our course, Sociology of Religion. We studied about feminization of religion.
Yes.
It showed such a different perspective of religion, not really marking towards Islam or Hinduism or Christianity or Buddhism. It was just feminization of religion, and that concept basically said that religion is mostly imposed, and it's like a source of control for women only. Only women tend to be very religious. Women tend to be, very much inclined towards the concept of purity. And men, on the other hand, they are inherently savage. They do not really participate.
But that's a perspective.
That's a perspective.
That's a perspective. So you'll have tons and tons of perspectives.
There are different perspectives.
And when you're talking about sociology of religion, now that you've opened up the conversation, we have the functionalist aspect, that how religion functions in a society, and Durkheim and the others. And then we have the Marxist approach, which is totally different. We have the postmodernist approach. The Weberian approach, of course, and Weber.
And my favorite, Frankfurt School. Yeah, how can we forget that? I think it was Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer who spoke about culture industry. How, the media, it manufactures content that distracts us from realities. And we totally lose our critical faculties, and because we're so obsessed with what we're being fed, the movies, the advertisements or the products, overconsumption core and all of these things, we are so invested in those things that we tend to forget that there are actual realities, there are actual things that are needed to be questioned. We lose our sense of self when we give into these structures that are built to distance ourselves from our own identities. How can we forget the Marxian theory of alienation? What is it? It's like the proletariat. They are distanced from the product they make. Exactly. They don't realize what they're doing. They create these products with massive value, but they only get 0.5% of it, 0.05% of it, and they don't realize it. They're not able to purchase the very product that they're making. And if that's not dystopian, I don't understand what is.
So basically, sociology opens up your worldview.
Yeah, definitely.
To varied concepts. So it does not sort of limit you in your understanding. It gives you the ability to critically think, to critically analyze, to prioritize also at times, or certain areas, certain arenas, and it helps you to understand what are the basic issues and how we can help solve those issues. I would like to ask you a few questions. Why did you choose your thesis, the topic of your thesis, and what did you learn when you actually chose your thesis topic, if anything at all?
Okay, so basically my topic was studying feudal women. I wanted to delve in that aspect. I wanted to basically highlight the positivity and the negativity, a very holistic perspective. The main challenge that I had faced when I took up the topic, I remember few of my professors telling me that you will barely get any content on that. I was like, still I wanna work on that. But it was a huge challenge. All the literature that I was getting, it was all focusing on negativity. I barely had any content. I did not really have like the latest content on that particular topic, but the few things that I had taken, I had optimized and used them as much as I could, as well as I could. So my research had opened up so many different customs
yeah.
and rituals that are taking place in the communities of the Sindhi Feudal Society, particularly in Umarkot. I remember interviewing these glorious women and their struggles and their resilience and their power. It was not all focusing on that बेचारी aspect के शौहर ने छोड़ दिया, बच्चे पैदा करने की मशीन रह गई, ये हो गया. There were many women who held a huge hold on their household decisions. They had a big impact on their marriage decisions, on their children's future, and this and that. And there were also very negative and very eye-opening aspects. I remember interviewing one of the women, and she exposed me to such. There was this one ritual that I had come across. The interviewee, she told me that in their area, I refuse to say it out loud that in which area, basically if a young man dies and he is married, after the iddat is passed away, the girl is just like given a red wheel on top of her, मतलब लाल दुपट्टा वो डाल देते हैं बेवा के ऊपर, and वो छोटे भाई या और the older brother उसके नाम कर देते हैं. The girl is just like without any nikah, without any marriage rituals, they just wed off the girl. Not exactly wed off, just give the girl away to the younger or older brother of the deceased one.
As possession.
As possession. And this is just, and all based on one fact that a woman can only get married once in her lifetime. So these were the rituals that I got to know, and I was shocked to the core that, oh wow, these things really happen in the society. And how.
So my topic was pretty long. It was mainly about cultural persistence and identity transformation. I was tracing the diaspora of northern Pakistanis who migrate to Karachi and how they settle in the area. What are the social cultural? Well, the northern Pakistani Ismailis, particularly the Hunzais and Gilgitis who come to Karachi, and when they integrate into the Ismaili communities that are living in Karachi, what are the social-cultural challenges that they have to face? How it leads to a formation of a hybrid identity, because a population that basically retains the quality of the dominant culture as well as their native culture, because it's something culture specifically, it's something that I've always been very fascinated with, because I come from a very patriotic Gilgiti family. They have always upheld their traditional norms, they've upheld their customs, and I have observed all the things that have happened since I was a young girl, and I have been very fascinated with the customs that we follow. But at the same time, I also live in Karachi. I also follow the urban way of life, urban lifestyles. So my thesis was basically focusing on how, when a diaspora community is trying to integrate into a new environment, particularly an urban sphere, how do they adjust? Do they assimilate? Do they reject? Do they retain? Do they integrate, or do they not do any of these things? So what's the process? So that is what mainly I was focusing on, because I for a long period I've observed a lot of my extensive relatives who have come from Gilgit, who have come from Hunza, and they've tried to settle in Karachi, and I honestly believe it's not easy. It's not easy for anyone to leave the place that they have lived in for so long, the place where they have networks, the place where they have friends, the place where everybody is like a relative, is like a friend. When they leave all of that behind and they shift to a completely new place, what are the identity negotiations that they have to face, and what changes are imposed on their identities? How do they perceive themselves after a few years of living here? How do they perceive the identities of their children? So all of these things were sort of a part of my thesis research, and I had very much fun doing this research, because first and foremost, I think it was my first experience as a proper researcher. Like, oh, I am a researcher. I'm researching about the whole thing. So it was quite fun, and it was also very rewarding at the end, because it was a huge booklet that we had to submit. Yeah.
That we had to submit, and we were intrigued that, oh God, we can write that much.
Yeah. How
So
were we?
which theories did y'all take when y'all were deciding, the theoretical framework? Which theory did each of you use in your research, in your thesis?
I had incorporated Sylvia Wolbe's patriarchy, the 6 structures of patriarchy. I had Simone de Beauvoir's the other.
The second sex.
The second sex, the concept of the
Yeah,
female
okay.
being the other, and also I had taken the Weber's theory of power. So basically, these 3 theories I had taken, and I had made a synthesis of these all 3 theories, and had applied in all of my themes and sub-themes and going forward.
That's a very, very difficult aspect to
choose.
Definitely, it was very, very rewarding reading your research. What about you?
Well, my research was focused on identity, essentially. So whenever we talk about identity, especially diaspora identity, most of the theories that you come across, they're post-colonial theories. So I had a bunch of them. I was mainly focusing my research on hybrid identity theory and cultural theory, and the researchers that I focused on, Stuart Mill and Homi Bhabha. But at the same time, I also studied a bit Gayatri Spivak and Barry as well, because of his acculturation theory. So these were some of the theories that I incorporated in my research.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed all the courses that you took.
Yes.
It's a memory that we're never
Yeah.
going to move.
I think some were very tough. Some were. I think it. When you're picking a particular major, all the courses are not going to be, not going to give you the same rush, the same thrill. There are going to be some courses are going to be like, they're so mundane. Some are going to be like, oh, it's so difficult. Some are going to be like, oh, it's interesting and difficult. Some are like, it's interesting and easy. So, that is going to be a variation. So you need to be ready for that, whoever is applying for sociology. But you need to also realize that in sociology, you have the authority, you have the space to decide how you want to study things. I'm sure that if anybody comes up to you and they ask you that they want to study this, they want to explore further on this particular theme in your particular course, so you would always you will willingly mold your syllabus, and you will also incorporate those things. So I think in sociology you have the liberty to decide what you want to study. So in anybody who's planning to come and be a part of the sociology major needs to realize that they have to take an active role in what they're studying. They need to take an active role in deciding.
Urooj said that it's liberation. It's
liberation.
It's liberation.
Yeah.
It's not really.
Thank you so much, both of you. It was a pleasure teaching y'all. And y'all are the second batch of students who had sociology as a major. So it was very rewarding and very enlightening, even hearing your critiques and your criticisms and your viewpoints.
Yeah.
So it was very, very rewarding for me as a teacher to have had such good students.
It was an honor for us.
Yeah.
So students who are planning to take the major, sociology as a major, should understand that it allows you to explore whichever avenues you want, whichever dimensions you want to study. If you want to go into understanding the concepts of media or politics or religion or family life or class or ethnic backgrounds or education, you are free to understand society from a wide variety of concepts, and therefore the decisions that you make, the policies that you will later on make when you start going for your master's or you start applying to jobs, sociology opens the door to any and every job that is available, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in media, whether it's in management, whether it's in education. You can join NGOs, you can join non-governmental organizations, which are of course NGOs. You can join governmental organizations, local organizations. You can join the World Bank, you can join the IMF. The world is open for you. And if you want to work from home, you're also free to do that. So sociology gives you the advantage of having a very wider spectrum of understanding of the social world and a wide spectrum of whichever area or arena that you want to take. Some of my students have gone in for criminology, so, and criminal behavior and understanding forensic criminology. So the door is open for whichever avenue you want to take in the future. Thank you very much, both of you. It was absolutely rewarding to hear what you had to say, and I just wish you the best in all your future endeavors. Thank you.